Like most server operating systems, Ubuntu Server, and Linux in general for that matter, will allow groups to manage security permissions. Now, we're going to deal with security permissions more a little bit later, but in order to get this, we do need to have a brief look at them. So I'm going to do ls-l, ls-l on the home folder. And here we're going to see folders, home folders for all of our users. Now I want to look at this first block, D, RWX, R-X, R-X. Okay, this is where our permissions are. So we've got three sets of permissions. Permissions for the owner, permission for the assigned group, and permissions for everybody else. And we've got three types of permissions, read, write, and execute. So that's RWX. The D indicates that it's a directory. If there's a dash there, it's just not a directory. So in the asmith folder, we have RWX, that's our first set. That means the owner, asmith, has read, write, execute permissions. And I know asmith is the owner because if I go across from there, just past that too, I see asmith, that's my owner. The next one over is the group that's assigned to it, and in this case the group is asmith. Now this is a little bit interesting in Linux because every time you create a user, it also creates a corresponding group. So that's why we have the user and the group repeating on all three of these. So the group has read and execute, but not write permissions. Theoretically, if I were to add somebody to the asmith group, which would make no sense, we'd never do that. But hypothetically, if we did, then, but it's not Alex, but somebody else, Alex would have read, write, and execute permissions because they would be the owner. And then somebody else part of that asmith group would have read and execute permissions. In this case, it really makes no sense because that last one, R-X, read and execute, those are the permissions assigned to everybody else, whether they're part of the group or not. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about what we're going to do. I want to create a folder. Alex Smith and Patrick Peters, let's say they're going to be a couple of our salespeople. So I'm going to I want to create a folder called sales. And we'll create a group called sales, and I want to give both of them access to it. So I'm going to add them to the group, and then I'm going to give the group the permissions on the folder. So here's how we're going to do this. Let's start by looking at our existing groups. So I'm going to do cat / etc. Let me see if I can type here. Still didn't get it right. There we go. / group. And this is going to show me all of my groups, including, by the way, the groups tied to the users. I can see which groups I'm in just by typing groups. Let me do that correctly. Groups. And that will tell me which I'm in. I'm in the David, the ADM, the CD-ROM, the sudo dip. All right, you can see all of my groups listed there. Now, I want to add a new group. So I'm going to do group add, and I want to add the group sales. Oops. Have to do that with sudo. Okay, now if I cat etc groups group, there is my sales group. Okay, cool. Now, I want to add users to the group, and there's actually two different ways I can do this. I can modify the user, or I can use the do the user mod command to modify a user and add them to the group, or I can use the gpassword command, and I'm going to do one of them each way. So I want to do user mod. I want to add /add capital G. Now, Linux is case sensitive, so if you don't put the capital G, it's not going to do what you want it to do. And I want to add to the sales group a Smith. So user mod add to group sales the user Alex Smith. Sudo that command. There we go. And they're now added. Now the other one is with the gpassword command. This, by the way, I can add users like this however I want. The other one is gpassword. So I'm going to do gpasswd. So group password I want to add, and this time I'm going to put the user first, P Peters, and I'm going to add them to the group sales. If I do sudo first. And then it just added Patrick Peters to the group sales. Now, if I cat etc groups, remember this shows me my all my groups. There we go. It's going to show me I have my sales group and I have A Smith, comma P Peters added to that group. So they are now both part of that group. Okay, now let me create a home folder for them. So I am going to cd/home. I'm going to need sudo permissions, and I'm going to make a directory for sales. I could have stayed where I was and did mkdir/home/sales as well. So ls-l, and here is my sales group. Now, I created as root, and the associated group right here is root as well. So I want to change that group. So here's how we're going to do it. It's chgrp. I'm going to need sudo here. chgrp. I want to create, change the group sales, and I'm going to add that to /home/sales. Now if I ls-l, we're going to see that sales is the group associated with the folder instead of root. But we're going to see that sales also only has read and execute permissions. I need them to have write permissions. So we're going to talk more about permissions and changing them later on. I just want to show you how to do this now. Just keep an eye out for later videos that go deeper into this. So I'm going to do chmod, change or modify. I'm going to want to take the group and I'm going to add write permission. We're going to look at different ways to do this when we get to our video on security. But I want to add write permission to the group on /home/sales. And once again, I need to sudo this. And now if I do an ls-l, we're going to see that we have our group sales, and then we have read, write, and execute permissions for the group. Now, I'm going to switch user to A Smith, and print working directory shows me I'm in the home folder. So I'm going to cd/home/. Actually, I don't even need to cd that. Let me just do this. Let me just look at my groups, and we're going to see that I'm a member of the A Smith group and the sales, which means I should be able to go to /home/sales, and I should be able to create something in that folder. So I'm going to nano test2 and create a file. This is a test the group permissions, and then write out and exit, exit, and then there is the file that Alex Smith just created. Okay, there we go. Let me go ahead and exit out of here. Now, just to be aware, notice I created that group is owned by sales, or by the sales. We'll try that again. That folder has the assigned group of sales. There we go. That makes more sense. That folder has the assigned group of sales. The file I created under it as Alex Smith, that has only Alex Smith there. That does not have the group sales associated with it. So I would need to modify that again if I wanted the whole group to have access to that file. Okay, there we go. We have created a group. We have added users to a group. We've set a home directory for the group, and then we've given the group permissions on that home directory.